Welcome to a couple of bunkies. Last year, we ended up being commissioned by the local church in order to design and make a wood sign for their community gardens. So at the time, they didn't quite know what they wanted to put in writing for the sign. So I went ahead and drew up 4 different designs for the sign. And I kind of wanted to have everything cut out, but they just wanted a relief carving in a piece of wood. Now, I have drawn a handful of signs with the ribbon design, and I thought this would surely be their favorite. And I was right. After I got the design done in ViaCAD, I exported it into Inkscape. So importing the file from ViaCAD always gives me a heck of a lot of errors. So I kind of have to find the mistakes in the program and add lines there and get them attached. Sometimes this is just making a line and then using the fill boundary tool. I found some very pretty text. I then had to select the text, then go to Path, and then Object to Path. Then I select Path Effects and Envelope Deformation. This gives me 4 control points on a vectorized object to stretch and scale it the way I'd like. So at the time, ChatGPT was just learning how to see images and make new images. So I ended up uploading the image that I just created, and I asked it to make a cedar sign hanging in a garden. Now, it decided to give me step-by-step instructions on how to engrave this sign and have it hanging in a garden, which it actually really did a good job. So I apologize for the misunderstanding, and I had asked it to make an image made of red cedar, the material. And I'd say it did a pretty darn good job, except it added a couple holes for a chain that were already in the image. So I felt that cedar was the perfect material for this project. In fact, I'd say it's ideal for wood signage. It's naturally rot and insect resistant, handles moisture well. This means that you don't have to use a sealer. It's also much softer than most hardwoods. Cedar also doesn't move or twist significantly with humidity changes. And I personally have seen cedar picnic tables that have lasted well over 20 years. So eventually the church ended up getting back to me with the lettering that they wanted on the signage. They settled on East of Whedon, which I think is a play on words for East of Eden, which of course is the famous garden in the Bible. So I did the same envelope deformation on the lettering in order to get it to line up with the inside of the sign. After that was done, I had to export this file as a PNG file back to ViaCAD. Now that it's in ViaCAD, I have to touch up the image just a little bit. Then, to print it out 1:1 scale, I go to Page Layout. In the setup mode, I select rows and columns. Then I select how many columns of paper I think I'll need. I think it'll fit good in 5, but I'm going to have to change it from landscape to portrait. But first I need to align it center to the project. Then I can overlay drawing in the preview so I can see just how much I'm going to be missing. It doesn't quite fit, so I'm going to go to Page Setup and then put it into portrait rather than landscape. And I'll have to add another column. Then I can align to center one more time and print off the project. After getting cedar wood from the store, I can go ahead and start working on this project. So I'm going to leave in all the noise, and I'm going to just have you watch me as I trace all the lines with my router. Now I can sand over the project with a palm sander. I can now cut the sign to size. Now, using a lid from a cup, I can mark out the radiuses on the edges of the sign and cut them with the jigsaw. And round over all of the edges with the round over bit on my table router. I often enjoy blowing my own horn on this channel, but not only am I a veteran, but I'm also a proud Eagle Scout. During my time as a Boy Scout, I served as a handicraft instructor, and my specialty was wood carving. Now, one of the largest mistakes that I constantly saw is people not going deep enough into their carving. Now that I have the groove started, I go over all of the grooves again, going just a little bit deeper. Another trick is to mark off all of the little areas that you want to go deeper, and keep going until you no longer see any of the marker. And now I use a Dremel in order to try to get rid of any of the burn marks left by the blade of the router. This might not be entirely necessary. I plan to use a stain or an epoxy on the inside that's going to color it black. Now that the carving's done, I can take it over to the drill press and drill the 2 holes that it's going to be hanging by. Now I use the router table in order to round over those holes that we just did. Now I can go over everything one more time with the finishing sander. I start off using a walnut stain polyurethane. The idea is to cover the entire thing and then to wipe off the excess. And we sand it after. The stain and the polyurethane fills in some of the cracks and adds just a little bit more depth to the wood. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of how it was turning out, so I decided to go a little darker with some epoxy. And I added some black epoxy coloring to it. Makes it very, very black. And left it overnight to cure. I made my life a lot easier by sending it through the planer instead of having to sand everything by hand. Of course, I had to do a little bit of sanding just to smooth everything up. Now I do 4 coats of an outdoor polyurethane. Letting them cure 4 hours and with sanding in between. Now I'm a little bit of a pack rat, and I had some chain left over from some hanging lights that I had hung in the past. So I basically just made loops in the chain and connected them through the holes on each side so I could hang it up, using this extraordinarily nice Gerber that I've had forever. They don't even make this one anymore, I've checked. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring a couple pieces of this chain with me because I don't know how much I might need when hanging it up. But here it is in some good light inside of the house. It looks pretty darn good. Now I ended up hanging it up while there was kind of a windstorm going on. But there's our woodworking logo, and here's the sign hanging in the garden. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe.
Perfect fit.